Hi, and welcome to another video where we have a look at a game played by Hans Niemann from the Charlotte Grandmaster tournament in 2020. Like I mentioned in the previous video, this tournament was flagged as allegedly suspicious by another YouTuber, a Grandmaster from Ukraine. And yeah, we looked at one game already. This one was against a stronger opponent, Grandmaster Streamvicius, probably from Lithuania, judging by his name. And Niemann had the white pieces, and just like in the previous game, he opened with knight f3. So he's consistent with his opening move, knight to f3, at least for this tournament. Knight f3 often used as a transpositional tool. In this case, we transpose to a modern defense after g6, and I believe after knight f6 we classify it as a purge defense. So knight c3, bishop g7, and well, here there are several moves. h3 definitely one of them. c6 played by black, and quite often when black plays c6 he wants to expand with b5. There are lines where white does allow that and later attacks the pawn on b5. I can recommend some games there, like Stefansson, Ponomaryov, and a nice game by Petr Nikolic. It was a line that I played myself with white, but a4 stops b5 immediately. Black castles, bishop e3. I mean bishop e3, bishop e2, normal moves you want to develop and get castled. Knight b to d7. And here a5. So in his analysis, Punin singles out again a stretch of moves which we have not yet gotten to. So far the game, nothing special about the game. White is playing fairly standard here, bishop e2. This has been played before, in fact. Rook b8, white castles, and b5. And this has all been seen before. And in the Philidor, just like in this one, when black plays b5 like this, white is often ready to play d5, and the idea is to create some weaknesses on some of these squares, sort of undermine black's pawns. So black now has a choice. Does he, well, keep the tension? Probably, definitely not play c5, because then white has great control over these squares and can play around and try to increase that control slowly but surely. Maybe get a knight to c4 in the future. So structurally that's probably not desirable for black. So black tries to keep the tension with knight c5, putting pressure on e4. And again, this has been played before, so again we can't rule out preparation. Knight f takes e4, takes, knight takes c6. Taking with a pawn, we can probably just take on d4 and take on c6. So we take on c6 with a knight, which looks much better. The knight is well placed, we're hitting the rook, but we do allow bishop takes b2. And after bishop h6, this is where the analysis sort of starts. And from here, this is move 16 up until move 25. It's a 4 centipawn loss, and as Punin says, fantastic. But we'll see. So okay, let's first see this move bishop h6. In fact, the computer prefers bishop f3, and if he was cheating with the top engine at the time, I guess bishop f3 should have been preferred, but he played bishop h6. Note that, and we'll get into that after bishop h6, actually, that if we take immediately, then there is this move knight to c3. And it's going to hurt us that the bishop is on e2 after a sequence like this, because knight takes e2 comes with check, and then we pick up the piece on b8, and black is up a pawn. Most likely we'll win the pawn back, and white is not doing badly at all. But that's sort of what goes into the decision here. And this is the first move, I guess, in the sequence of moves where white only loses 4 center pawns on average for the next 10 moves, which is supposed to be fantastic. So bishop f3 is the first move, and it's Stockfish 12 preferred move. Again, Stockfish 12 was the best engine at the time in the Stockfish family, so we're using that like Punin did. So like we said, so on the other line, knight c3 and taking on e2 can be an issue, so bishop f3 removes that possibility and also hits this guy. Black plays knight c3. The queen has to move, and will d2 or d3, queen d2. This looks more logical in general, to keep the queen on a dark square. Yeah, it's less vulnerable. Of course, queen d4 is not possible, although we're threatening mate. We're going to lose the queen in one move after knight e2 and takes queen. So queen d2, bishop e7. And this is perhaps the star move of the game. Very nice move. You'll notice, however, that there's a battle here between rook a3 and knight takes b8. And at the moment, rook a3 is winning out. I believe if we leave it on for a bit, that knight takes b8 will take over. In fact, it has a higher score right now. Okay, it went down a bit. But I think it would be the preferred move by Stockfish 10, and now it is. Knight takes b8. So it doesn't play the best move, he plays the second best move, rook a3. But if you think about it, what other moves are there? We have to do something about this tension. We have this tension and we have this tension. Now if we try to resolve it by moving our rook away, first of all, a move like rook a7, black moves the rook away. It's no longer attacked. And remember, black is off a pawn, so black should be fine here. Same thing goes for rook a to e1. Black can take on c6, play d5. Now the c6 pawn is isolated, and we don't have pressure on this diagonal. We can't put the queen there because of the knight check. Black is starting to take here and be in time to close things down if he needs to. So it seems like knight takes b8 or rook a3 are the only available moves, really. And rook a3, tactical move, but it doesn't take a rocket scientist to see that, if you take it, I will take on c3, and I'm threatening mate, and then I win this guy. So rook a3, great move, but it was not the best move according to the computer at the time. Stockfish 15 actually, the current best Stockfish. Well, maybe they have 16 now, but I have 15. And my most recent version of Stockfish wants to play rook a3, but Stockfish 12 wanted to take on b8 first. Okay. But like I said, it seemed to me that white only had two choices in the position. He went with rook a3. Knight takes d5, bishop takes d5. So he sacrifices the knight for the pawn. If he was going to take on a3, the knight was going to be lost anyway, but now he undermines the knight on c6. But here we see some tactics, and they shouldn't be too difficult to calculate for a player of Hans Niemann's caliber, or in fact any player who's trying to become a grandmaster. I mean, queen c3, we're threatening mate. When you play bishop h6, you're aware of the weakness of the g7 square, so you're always trying to make tactics work to use that. Another factor is that the bishop is pinning the pawn, so you can't play f6. So it's not a hard calculation to see that the only move for black is e5. And again, we are aware of this weakness, and in fact, this is similar to Lolly's mate, where you have a pawn on f6 and queen on h6, weakness on g7. And Lolly's mate was one of the first mating patterns that Yasser Seirawan learned. He mentioned that in several videos. So now queen f3, we want to just give mate. And with the knight here, we are dominating the queen. It's not going to be able to protect. It's not going to be able to access a dark square to cover f6, so this is forced. So these are all forced moves. And what to do now? We're down the exchange. Why not recuperate it? Knight takes b8, that's what it does. And now, the choices for black. In the game, he played e4. If he takes the knight, obviously, we're just taking the bishop and we're up a piece. So the only critical move was for black to take on d5. And the only thing we had to see there, that at the end of a series of very forced moves, we have rook a1. Bishop doesn't have a square, and rook here. In fact, when I was looking at this, I saw this idea myself, so I think it's very reasonable that Hans Niemann saw it if I could see it. So, can't take on d5. So black is essentially lost. So he tried to throw a spanner in the works here with e4. But now we can take on a3. If we take on b8 now, our queen is no longer behind the bishop, so we can use the bishop and take on e6. So bishop takes d5. And now the knight is here. What to do? There's only one move, knight a6. Retreat with a knight. So in this sequence, like 10 moves, 4 center pawn loss. I mean, rook a3 maybe? The other moves seem fairly easy to find. And the complexity in the calculation, you need to see rook a1 at the end of the line where you have the queen on d5. And you need to see maybe that, moves like e4 are not damaging you. I don't know, from here, the remaining moves were not included in the analysis of the average center pawn loss, but okay, knight b4, queen b2. It's logical here for white to cement the stronghold on the dark squares. So queen b2, threatens mate again, but most importantly, just keeps control of these dark squares, keeps the blockade. Bishop comes back, hitting the pawn, not risking getting hemmed in by the pawn. So this all looks very natural. And after queen c4, I mean, queen takes c4 is not a tough move. It's a human move to liquidate, and that's what Hans did. Took on c4, rook d1, and black resigned. It's completely dominated on the dark squares. So despite technically only being down a pawn, he doesn't really have any counterplay. It's just a matter of time here. So Streamvicius had seen enough. Yeah, I mean, definitely some moves there that were nice, like rook a3, but even that move wasn't the first choice. And I don't know, do these 10 moves with the 4 center pawn loss, are they super impressive or just slightly impressive? I don't know. The rest of the game, if you put it into the lead chess free analysis, it doesn't throw up any noteworthy average center pawn loss for the whole game. So it's just a matter of these 10 moves, I guess. But at least for me, I'm not convinced so far. So you tell me. Anyway, I think I'll have a look at some more games. People seem to enjoy that, and yeah, I'll see you soon. Thanks. Bye bye.